It's your girl, Mrs. Tony Two Times, and I'm back with another episode of Hood Tales. In this video, I'll be taking it to Taylor, Michigan, southwest of Detroit, to discuss the tragic story of an altercation between two co-workers that ended fatally. But before we get into this video, please don't forget to hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe if you haven't already and join the Tony Two Times family. Tap that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Also, if you'd like to see more episodes of Hood Tales, please click the link to the playlist in the description box after this video to get caught up. And be sure to share this video with everyone you know. Stay tuned until the end to hear all the details. All right, let's get into it. On Monday, October 16th, 2017, at 7:05 a.m. in Taylor, Michigan, at a Burlington Coat Factory department store, employees arrived at work to get the store prepared for customers' arrival. Store employees trickled in and started clocking in to begin their respective shifts. Just as the workday was getting started, 49-year-old Sandra Lynette Waller and 49-year-old Lorraine Maylin Faison got into a brief altercation in the break room. Things escalated quickly as Sandra pulled her registered Glock 23 out and fired at Lorraine once, striking her in the chest. As Lorraine fought for her life, Sandra called 911 and reported what happened. She remained on the scene until police arrived. When officers arrived at the scene, they were met by Sandra at the door. She had the weapon in her waistband. The weapon was handed over to the police, and Sandra was arrested without incident. As officers and first responders made their way into the department store, they found Lorraine lying on the storage room floor. She was rushed to Beaumont Hospital in Taylor, where she sadly passed away from her injuries. Officers also found a bullet hole and a single shell casing in the storage room that matched the caliber of bullet for a Glock 23, and a pair of scissors near where Lorraine was found. Lorraine Faison of Allen Park was a mother to her only daughter, and she was also a grandmother. Lorraine had worked at the Burlington store on Eureka Road for nearly a year. One would ask, how did a seemingly normal opening shift at a department store turn into something so tragic? According to the police investigation, both Sandra and Lorraine had ongoing issues with each other at work. The issues had been reported to management. The two women did not get along with each other. Sandra and Lorraine had got into an altercation the day before the incident, and both were reportedly sent home as a result. The argument the day before stemmed from a disagreement on how merchandise should be marked down. Sandra's fiancé at the time went on to tell news outlets that if Sandra and Lorraine were sent home for the same problem, management should know it wasn't right for them to be working together. Sandra's fiancé says she was the one in danger. She was not the type of person to get in trouble and had no criminal history. However, Lorraine's family believes Sandra's actions were premeditated. Lorraine's daughter says the report of Burlington managers sending her mom and Sandra home because of a disagreement wasn't completely accurate. According to what Lorraine's daughter told reporters, the managers had to act like they sent both women home, but really sent Sandra home and told her mom to just go take a break and come back to work because Sandra was supposedly the aggressor. Sandra was ultimately charged with first-degree murder and a felony firearm charge. A preliminary hearing was held a few weeks after Sandra was arrested. 4 witnesses were called to the stand to determine whether there was enough evidence to continue the case. The witnesses included a store manager, and 3 Taylor police officers. During the store manager's testimony, she spoke of the altercation that took place at the store a day before the fatal incident. According to the store manager's testimony, Sandra and Lorraine got into a dispute about the proper way to scan aisles. Lorraine told Sandra she was doing it wrong, and in turn, Sandra told Lorraine she couldn't tell her what to do. The 2 women started yelling and cursing at each other. The dispute was brought to the supervisor's attention, and she tried separating them to different departments. However, that didn't work, and the women started yelling at each other again. It ended when both women were sent home and their pay was docked. The assistant manager told the court Sandra said being moved to another department would make her look weak. The assistant manager went on to testify about what happened the following morning when both Lorraine and Sandra arrived at work. She said she was alerted that there was an altercation in the store just before the doors opened at 8:45 a.m. and took Sandra to her office to discuss it. She said she did not see a firearm on Sandra's hip at the time, but that associates are not allowed to bring a firearm into the workplace. The first responding officer also took the stand and testified about being greeted by Sandra, placing her under arrest, the recovery of the Glock 23, her cooperation with officers, and her license to carry. A second Taylor police officer took the stand and told the court about finding Lorraine unresponsive in a storage room and the other evidence that was discovered, including the bullet hole and shell casing that matched the caliber weapon that Sandra had in her possession. Lastly, a detective took the stand and told the court about surveillance video from the Burlington store on the day of the shooting and the day before, showing the dispute. The surveillance from the morning of the incident shows Sandra in the break room as the day starts. Investigators say when Lorraine arrives, it appears she pushed the door open and shoved Sandra, who reacts and runs out of view of the camera. The shouting and name-calling between Lorraine and Sandra escalated. Investigators say moments later, surveillance shows the firearm being pulled out. That is when the shooting happened, but it wasn't filmed because the video camera in the area where it occurred was not working that day. The prosecution said the fact that Sandra came to work with a weapon and her use of fatal force with a mere possibility of minor harm is evidence to show her actions were premeditated. On the contrary, the defense argued that Sandra should be charged with second degree or manslaughter instead of first degree. The defense claimed that based on the evidence of a pair of scissors being found next to Lorraine's body may be evidence that Sandra somehow acted in self-defense. The defense said there was clearly heat of passion between the two parties, and despite the store's policy, Sandra had a right to be carrying a firearm. The defense also said that what was not shown is that Sandra's actions were premeditated. However, the judge disagreed and noted that Sandra woke up that morning and decided to go to work with a firearm a day after an argument with Lorraine. The judge told Sandra she was bringing a gun to a fistfight. The judge later ruled the case had enough evidence to go to trial, and Sandra remained charged with first-degree hit. Then, on February 2nd, 2018, Sandra Waller went on to plead guilty to second-degree hit and felony firearm in the slaying of Lorraine Faison in exchange for the first-degree charge being dropped. Sandra's sentencing hearing was later that month on February 20th, 2018. Before Sandra received her sentence, Lorraine's family spoke to the court. Lorraine's sister was the first to speak and told the court Although they were not on speaking terms, neither would now have the opportunity to apologize. She told the court that Lorraine was a wonderful woman and sister. She also said that Sandra robbed her of growing old with her sister. Lorraine's daughter also spoke and called Sandra a coward and said her mother's slaying was senseless. Sandra also addressed the court and apologized for her actions. Sandra gave Lorraine's daughter her sincerest, heartfelt apology. She said she has great sorrow and unceasing anguish in her heart. The judge then sentenced Sandra to 16 to 40 years for the slaying and 2 years for the firearms violation. May Lorraine Faison continue to rest peacefully. My belated condolences to her family. My well wishes go out to them, and I hope that they are doing as well as they can be. Lorraine was described as a generous person who would rather give than receive. Lorraine's slaying was absolutely senseless. The issue between her and Sandra could have been resolved in another way that did not involve someone losing their life. I mean, these are two women who were almost 50 years old. Working with others can be difficult, and you're not going to always like your coworkers, but there is no need to take it to this level. This is what happens when you go unconscious and live in the imagination of your emotions and anger. You make choices you wouldn't have rather made if you became more aware of your emotions and anger. It's easier to keep them in check when you're aware versus allowing them to take over you and lead you to commit evil acts. There are a lot of things both women could have done better, in my opinion, but Lorraine should still be here to live her life with her family. Disagreements at work to me are never that serious. I had some coworkers I could not stand, but never enough to throw my life away. I know for some people quitting is not an option, but for me, I would quit real quick if it meant protecting my peace, sanity, and freedom. Fam, tell me your thoughts on this story. Do you think Sandra's actions were premeditated, or do you think it was a heat of the moment situation that just ended badly? What would you have done if you were in this situation? We can all learn from each other's mistakes and choose to do better. Please be respectful and share your thoughts in the comments below. All right, fam, that's it for this episode of Hood Tales. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is your girl, Mrs. Tony 2 Times. Until next time.